¿Qué onda? Thanks for watching Doing Life with Jenny. If you're new here, I'm Jenny from the US, and I'm retiring early, building a house in Mexico, and heading off to live there soon. I just returned from Mexico. I was there for 3 weeks, and it was not the best trip. Actually, maybe one of the worst I've gone on, and today I'm going to explain why. I guess I felt that the trip wasn't that great because it really wasn't a trip. It was more of the reality setting in that I'm going to be living there and taking care of business sort of stuff. It wasn't a lot of sightseeing and trying to go to new cities I haven't explored yet. The main point of the trip was to get my residency, which I did get my residency card, but I'll make that a separate video because I know a few of you are interested in going through that process yourself, and you're going to want all the details about that. Since the point of the trip was to get the residency card, I stupidly chose an Airbnb that was close to the immigration office, and the immigration office is in a neighborhood called Polanco in Mexico City, which is the wealthiest area of Mexico City, if not all of Mexico, and that also has to do with why the trip was kind of ruined. Polanco only has one metro stop, and it happened to be quite far from my Airbnb, so I didn't feel like I could just walk a few minutes and catch the metro and go into other parts of the city very easily like I've done in the past. And I'm not making the kind of money to just hop into a taxi or an Uber every day, several times a day. So I tended to just stay in my Airbnb and to go out if I really needed to. With it being a very wealthy area, I just didn't have the money to really go out and eat a lot or do other exploring. So maybe you're wondering why, hey Jenny, why didn't you choose an Airbnb that was in a cheaper location or that was closer to the metro line and just take the Uber once to your immigration appointment? Well, in hindsight, that would have been the smart thing to do, but I thought I was going to have to go to immigration on a couple different occasions. If you've seen the other videos, they don't really have a set process in Mexico. It's like, okay, what's the process going to be today? Tomorrow it's probably going to be different. So when I was there, it happened to be I just had to go once. If I had known that, yeah, I probably would have chosen a different location. Being honest, I think even if I had stayed in a cheaper area, I still would have stuck to the Airbnb because I am trying to save my money up so I can retire early. I'm trying to build a house, so I just felt like it was going to be counterproductive to go exploring what's soon going to be my own backyard. I'll have forever to explore that. My priority at the moment should be saving for retirement and not spending the money I've saved to build the house. So again, I just tried to stay in the Airbnb as much as possible to help me reach my goals. And as you may know, staying at an Airbnb and not going out is a lot different than staying at your own home and not going out. Here at my home, I have my guitar and my keyboard, and at my Airbnb, all I had was my phone and my Italian notes. And let's be honest, I didn't look at my Italian notes except for during my Italian lesson. While I was staying in Polanco, I did go to the grocery store and I did a little meal prep so I could eat mostly at the Airbnb, keeping in mind that I was getting ready to move on to a cheaper location where I would have more flexibility to go out and eat at restaurants. Also, while I was staying in Polanco, I got a text message that the dog sitter lost one of my dogs, which they did find, thank goodness. So obviously that caused a lot of stress at the moment, but luckily it all worked out in the end. So this was about the first 5 days of the trip. The next leg of the trip was heading to Pachuca, which is my new capital in the state of Hidalgo. It's about 30 minutes from where I'm going to be building, and it's where the architect and the construction company are based out of. Okay, the trip did not get any better here for several reasons. One, I arranged to see the dentist because right before I went to Mexico, I visited my own dentist at home and I needed some work done. It was going to be over $500 after the insurance taking care of their part. So I'm like, well, I'll be in Mexico, might as well have it done there for a lot cheaper. If you're interested, I can make a video on that as well. So I had a root canal done. I don't know if you've gone through that or not, but it was no fun. I didn't feel like doing anything afterwards. I had to go in for 2 sessions to complete the root canal, and then a final session to put, I guess, what is a cap, perhaps? I don't know, it's all in Spanish. Dental vocabulary is not my forte. And although it was a lot cheaper in Mexico than in the US, it was another expense. So again, I was being mindful of my money, mindful of my goals. I'm like, well, I spent this money on the dentist. I should not go out exploring here either. Besides going for my root canal, I also met up with the architect, which I'm very, very into, but the feeling isn't mutual. So that was a little tough, but it is what it is. And I did have to give him my life savings. Not really, but it kind of felt like it. Like, obviously I have to pay for his services and for the materials and whatnot, but it did hurt a little to work so hard to save the money and to have to hand it over. We also made sure we were on the same page with final tweaks to the plans. We went to Home Depot to look at flooring and bathrooms and that sort of stuff, and just made sure everything was ready to roll. By the way, when I say architect, I'm referring to like the whole team. My architect's friend's dad is the one that owns the construction business, so he's just kind of the middleman to make everything happen. Anyway, the first day I got to Pachuca, even before I had a chance to meet up with my architect in person, he sent me a message saying they were going to start building that Wednesday that I was there. And I was just thrilled that I was going to be able to see something, even if it was just going to be seeing the land all cleared off, having a fresh slate to build from. But no, in true Mexican fashion, nothing happened while I was there. It has nothing to do with the architect or his dad's business. They have been great. It's more like the people in the town hall office with the building permits. That's just how things roll. So I didn't get to see anything at all. I did go visit the land a couple times. I did meet the neighbor that is living in front of me. I don't have anybody on the side of me, and he was really nice. It seems like a couple that's maybe in their late 60s, early 70s. So from Pachuca, I was supposed to do a little trip to Morelia in the state of Michoacan, but I was looking up buses and there are no buses that go directly from Pachuca to Morelia. So I would have had to gone to Querétaro or Mexico City first, and then from there get another bus to Morelia. Is that a big deal? No, but I felt like it was a little tedious given I wasn't going to be there for very long. And it was also going to be another expense. So I'm like, no, let me extend my stay in Pachuca and then we'll head back to Mexico City as originally planned. So I was a little bummed that I didn't get to know a new city because Morelia has been on my bucket list for a while, but again, not too disappointed because it's helping me reach my goal by not going now and saving it for later once I live there and get settled. Since I decided to extend my stay in Pachuca and not go to Morelia, I had to find another Airbnb for the remainder of my stay, and here's a little horror story for you. Let me preface this by saying this has nothing to do with Mexico. This stuff happens in lots of countries, in lots of Airbnbs, and the owner of the Airbnb is not even Mexican. So I don't want you to associate this negative story with Mexico because they have nothing to do with each other, except for the Airbnb happens to be in Mexico. So I agreed with the owner of the Airbnb that I was going to get there at 3 p.m. And so at 3 p.m. I get there, I find the address, which honestly I drove by that morning to find it just to be sure. Knocked on the door, rang the doorbell, sent him a message via Airbnb, sent him a message via WhatsApp, called him via WhatsApp. No response at all. So it's like, great. Here I am with my suitcase and my backpack standing in the rain, and this guy has disappeared on me. So I found a little plaza, like a little mall, and found a bench and sat down there, trying to find if there was another Airbnb available or a motel or a hostel or something, so I had somewhere to go, at least for the night. So while I'm looking into this, the Airbnb host finally responded. This is 30 minutes later. 30 minutes is a long time to be sitting there trying to get in to your accommodation when you already agreed on the time, and for you to not at least respond and say, hey, I'm running late or something, like you just flat out disappear. No. But he finally responded, so I went back to the door, and as I'm ringing the doorbell again, he comes from like behind me or down the street up towards me. He did not come from the door. He's like, Jenny? I'm like, yeah, I'm Jenny. He said, no, this isn't the address. Follow me, it's down here. And I look at the door and I'm like, no, here's the address. The street was clearly marked. They're not always clearly marked in Mexico, but this one happened to be. He's like, oh, sometimes the map is a little wrong. I'm like, no, this has nothing to do with the map. You're the one that typed your address into Airbnb. I pulled up Airbnb. It says, this address, this is what it says on the door. This is the house that you're advertising. And he's like, no, I'm sorry for the confusion. It's this one over here. Okay, maybe there was some kind of mishap or error. I don't know, but you think I'm dumb enough to go find out the hard way? No. So I said, first, you didn't answer. Secondly, you're trying to take me to an address that isn't on my reservation. Like, no, I'm not going. So he was trying to be all apologetic and ask if he could help, but I don't need your help, dude. You're obviously not trustworthy. You put me in this situation. I'm going to handle this on my own. So I went back to the little plaza, to my little bench, and kept searching for other options. I really wasn't finding an Airbnb I liked in my price range and the location I wanted to be in. There was a hostel, but the location again was a little off. And I really wasn't finding any motels or hotels in my price range either. But I knew there were more hotels in the area than what were popping up online. Sometimes Mexico is a little behind when it comes to putting businesses online. So I'm like, I'm just going to walk and go in and ask the price because I'm not really finding this information on Google, okay? Keep in mind, it's raining during this whole time. I have my backpack and my luggage as well. So I start walking and I see a hotel in the center down a side street, and I walk in and he said it was 300 pesos, which is the equivalent of $15, which I know probably sounds like a steal to you, but for what it was quite expensive, especially since it didn't have Wi-Fi. It was a little run down looking, but at least it was a bed to sleep in and it had hot water. So I said, yes, sign me up for one night. I've stayed in nicer hotels for only $10 a night, so don't think I'm trying to be like picky about this price. I just know what other things have gone for. Honestly, the hotel wasn't so bad. My standards are not that high. The main issue was it didn't have Wi-Fi and I don't have unlimited data, so I was just trying to stay there for only one night if possible. Luckily, I was able to stay with a friend for a couple nights, and then my first Airbnb I stayed at in Pachuca was open, so I went back there for the last few nights of my stay in Pachuca. According to the internet, there are quite a few vegan options in Pachuca, but once you get there, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's because of the pandemic or what, but you like show up and it's not there where it says it is, or it's been closed for a few years. I don't know. So basically I went to the same restaurant over and over, which was, thank goodness, very delicious. Otherwise, I was starting to get burnt out on my food options. So if you're not familiar with Pachuca, basically there's nothing to do there, which is why it's on the cheap end. So I did make some good friends to hang out with, and one of them, Jaime, took me to a nearby town called Real del Monte. It's a very picturesque town, so that was nice to get to see something. And actually, while we were there, they were shooting some kind of movie or TV show, so we got to see that in action. And on a different day, all alone, I went to another town called Tula de Allende, which wasn't very exciting, but there is a pyramid there, so I went to check that out real quick. I don't really think it was worth the time or effort because after seeing other pyramids in Mexico, it wasn't that impressive, and also I didn't get a guide, so I had really no idea what I was looking at. So at this point, I went back to Mexico City about 5 days before my flight was going to leave, just because there's more stuff to do there and to just be calm, not trying to feel rushed to get from one city to the next to catch a flight. And this is finally where the trip got a lot better. I stayed in a neighborhood called Roma Sur. There's Roma Norte and Roma Sur, North and South Rome, which is also kind of a wealthy area, but not to the extent of Polanco. The metro is more accessible, and there were a lot of vegan options within walking distance. It was also within walking distance to my vegan gluten-free bakery. Well, not mine, but it's like the one I go to every time I'm there. I also made 2 very good friends in this part of the trip. One who happens to be from Guatemala, who's doing his master's there, and the other who is also a musician. So we got to jam. We took turns on the guitar and the drums. We did karaoke. We had so much fun. And he's also a dancer, so we got to do some salsa dancing as well. So yeah, I just enjoyed my last few days getting some good vegan food, especially some good tacos. And my Guatemalan friend and I went to actually explore a little bit. Very little. They were things I'd already seen, but we went to the very center of Mexico City called the Zócalo, which is where like the equivalent of the White House is. There are some archaeological ruins, there's a basilica, and then there's like a beautiful theater called Bellas Artes. So it's nice to at least like get out of the Airbnb and like go see something, even if I didn't go into those buildings. Even if I had seen them before, at least we got out and said we did something for the day, and also did pour down rain on us, but hey, that makes for an adventure, right? So to conclude, I don't mean this video to be like, oh, feel sorry for me, my trip was so bad. No, I know I'm very blessed and fortunate to have gone anywhere, and like I said, the point of the trip was not to be a vacation. It was more like, I'm going to be living here, let's take care of business, and let's not do something to like set us back in reaching our goals. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you'd like to continue in following me in my journey in moving from the US to Mexico, be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Take care, guys.